Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Bright Side of Beauty podcast presented by Beyond Skin Aesthetics. I am joined today by Mary Robb, the CEO, founder, and I would say social media mogul that is Social Practice. She is located in Dallas, Texas. And honestly, we have just grown together through our friendship, through entrepreneurship, and just leaning on each other as fellow, I would say, young entrepreneurs in the aesthetics industry, all that entails. But also, from a business perspective, she has truly taken our brand and helped us to scale it and become one of the most elite practices here in Columbus, Ohio. So, Mary, welcome to the Bright Side of Beauty podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Delaney, and I'm so excited to be here and so honored to be invited to be a guest today.
Of course, it was a matter of time. It was more of just trying to get our schedules lined up so that we could get on. And I guess let's just start off at the beginning. I, of course, know your whole story, but I want everyone out there to hear, how did Social Practice come about and who is Mary Robb?
Such a great question. So, Social Practice was founded 6 years ago, and I grew up in a family of two very hard workers, but I always was very ambitious and wanted to have my own business one day. And I knew, though, that I would need to work my way up to that point and get a lot of experience. So, earlier in my career, I majored in public relations and business, and then went on to work for 4 other agencies. And the last 2 that I worked for specialized in serving aesthetic practices. And I fell in love with the industry. I just absolutely love healthcare because I can see very clearly the impact that providers, doctors, the practice owners, the impact you're making on people's lives is so inspiring, and you have so much potential to really help other people. And so I found my passion in marketing really leaning into that industry, that vertical, if you will. And so at my last job before I started Social Practice, I had really great relationships with my clients, and they were constantly asking me if I knew of a good social media vendor, manager, provider, and I couldn't find one in the market that I felt confident referring to. And so I decided to pilot Social Practice 6 years ago. And now we are in 14 different states. We are national. We can go anywhere. We have about 55 clients currently. We're based out of Dallas. We've got 10 full-time employees and a large portfolio of contractors that support the work we do. But we're very much just on a mission to help our clients and our practices just have a bigger impact to the work they do by us telling their story on social media. And it's honestly a dream job. It's wild to think that even 15, 20 years ago, social media wasn't even a thing, and now it could be a full-time career. So that's the long story short.
Isn't it crazy to have a job that is also your passion, that like you like waking up every single day and going to work?
Yes.
It's the best
It's
thing.
really cool. But that doesn't make it easy. And I like to like clear the air on that, is that people think that when you say yes to fully leaning into the career that you have dreamed of for your entire life, that all of a sudden it's gonna be so easy and things are gonna fall into place, and you're not going to be challenged. And I will say this is the most challenging career position I've ever been in my entire life, but I am obsessed with it, and this is what I asked for, and this is what I signed up for. So I'm sure you feel the same way in your seat too.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And there's so many layers to that. I mean, to say obsession is an understatement. It's really hard to separate out your personal life with your professional life. And a lot of times it coincides and it just becomes one giant blur of everything together. It really does become your life. And especially when you have like your friends or family that you're working with, like in my case, it truly is like you are with the people that you work with all the time. So it's hard to separate that out. Even when you're on vacation, you're still like on calls and stuff. It becomes so in sync in a way. And that's beautiful, but also can be very overwhelming.
I think it's a gift, and I think being an entrepreneur now and really running this business solo for the past 6 years, I've learned that I really find that my closest friendships are with those who are running the same race that I am. And I used to feel like that might be an issue because I've had lots of friends and have been in different relationships with different entrepreneurs. And I thought, you definitely need to have a diverse group of people around you. You always need to have different thought processes, but there's something different to be said for those relationships you have with people who are equally as committed, who share the same level of responsibility, who carry the same weight and the same amount of pressure, who have the same values, the same mission. That's such a gift. So I actually do find myself becoming friends with clients, and I know that's how our relationship started, but you are one of my best friends, girlfriends, and I'm just so grateful that business brought us together. But I would prefer to spend my free time with you, just because of how much synergy there is. And I want to say that for the other entrepreneurs listening in, that that's normal. If you're going through that season of I don't know, transitioning your friend group or finding different communities. So
it is. It's so hard when your friend group does start to shift, because it's very hard to explain to somebody that can clock in for traditional 9 to 5 what being a business owner entails, or what having that entrepreneurial drive looks like. Because sometimes it's not that you necessarily own your business, but you function as an entrepreneur in a way. So you're an entrepreneur inside of another business, and you own what you do every single day, and you're constantly striving for the next best thing and growth and growing the other people around you. And it kind of falls back to that iron sharpens iron concept. You have to be so careful about who you surround yourself with so that you can continue to move forward, because there are people out there that don't understand the race that you are running, and they are not even trying to understand it. As a matter of fact, sometimes they can try to misunderstand it on purpose and say things like, why are you working so hard? Your entire life is just going to be wasted here. And you really have to kind of focus and dial in on who do you have around you that's helping you move forward and is moving at the same momentum with you.
That's so good. And that leads into a really good next direction around personal brands and marrying your business and who you are in your company and who you are on social media and online. And how, when you step into business ownership, leadership, and same thing with personal brands, you can't hide anymore. You can't stay in the shadows. You can't sit on the bench. You have to be able to show up every day, and the people you surround yourself with have an influence on that. And so,
say it again.
The people you surround yourself influence your capacity and your ability to fully step into all that God has called you to be. That's
amen, sister friend.
Lesson. Yeah, that's a hard lesson to learn. I know we've both learned it in a lot of different ways, but I would be curious to see what you think about, as your entrepreneurial journey has evolved. How do we protect ourselves and create a lane for ourselves so that we can continue on that journey without those distractions, especially when you talk about people from 5, 10, 20 years ago? I know that's a big question I get is the clients I work with are worried about, well, what is Sarah from high school going to think? What is my former coworker going to think if I start sharing on social? That's something that I think would be really interesting to talk through on this episode, because I know that's something that I have struggled with off and on. I know you've talked about it as well. And it's a very real thing that can hold us back.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I am definitely guilty of, I worry about being in control of who sees what I'm putting out there, who sees my content. And for some reason, millions of strangers on the internet are not intimidating to me whatsoever. But knowing that somebody that I went to high school with, or somebody that was in my sorority per se, or even family members to see what I am doing, it feels so vulnerable and open to put yourself out there. And I could put my skincare routine or my skincare journey, or even just my daily struggles out there on Instagram for the world to see without thinking of it. But if I see that somebody from my past happens to watch that story, all of a sudden it's like I freeze up and I want to go into a hole and not share anything anymore. And I think a lot of us struggle with that. We want to put ourselves out there. We want to be visible, but we want to control who we're visible to. And it is truly impossible to do that in today's day and age. And to me, I think that the only way that you can truly navigate that in a kind of in a strength is to be truly authentic. You
Yeah.
have to do the work to figure out who you are and stay inside that lane. You can curate the most beautiful Instagram feed. You can hire somebody like Social Practice to come in and make sure that you are all buttoned up and you have the highest quality content. And it is just absolutely a stunning magazine to walk through your business. But if it is not aligned with who you are as a person, it is going to fall. It is going to crash and burn. Next year, you're going to be like, okay, but who the heck am I? 5 years from now, you're going to look back and be like, what was I even doing? So, the way to have longevity with what you're putting out there on the internet to stay forever is to truly be authentic and lean into that. And I think too, the big thing is people buy into you, not what your product is. We have this conversation all the time, but there are probably 100 different places that you could go and get Botox in Columbus, Ohio. However, there's only one Beyond Skin Aesthetics. There
Mhm.
is only one group of people that is truly us, and people buy into us the same way as if they're going to a practice down the street, they're bought into that practice. And our job as marketers of ourselves and our business is to put ourselves out there so that we're attracting the right clientele. We don't need every single face in our local area. We need our people. And how you do that is by showing up authentically online.
Yeah. No, it's so good. And that's something that I really wanted to dive into on this episode is you're exactly right. I think it's easy to get caught up in that game of comparison and to start obsessing over what your competitor is doing or what the practice that's 5 times your size in a bigger market is doing. But ultimately, what people are drawn to is, like you said, your ability to show up authentically and consistently and show the good, show the bad, show who you are. No one can replicate that. And there's this message in the aesthetics industry right now that it is saturated, which it is, but
But not really.
the demand, yeah, the demand for the things that the aesthetics providers and industry does is off the charts and it's projected to grow at a phenomenal rate. And I don't even want to quote it. I want to say double or triple in the next 5 years.
200%.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
It's like to me, I'm like, there's so much opportunity. It's an abundance mindset. What we need to focus on is how do we fully step into who we're supposed to be as providers, as business owners, as entrepreneurs, share our story, share our philosophy, share the things that we care most about, and be honest about that so that we can attract the right people, like you said. But
Mhm.
I guess the real question is how do you break through the doubts and the fears and the anxieties on that day to day basis? You know, it's the Monday through Fridays, sometimes weekends, where as a business owner, you've got a lot going on. You've got
Mhm.
employees, you've got patients, clients, you've got finances to worry about, you've got personal life, kids, spouses. There's always a reason why you just can't show up that day. And something that I love about you is that you're always so consistent and we hold each other accountable to that. And I'm just curious, and I'll share mine too, but what are some of the things that keep you just inspired and accountable to showing up?
I think that truly what keeps me inspired is the fact that I'm sharing my actual life and that I'm living life alongside those that are following me on social media or those that are coming into my practice. I'm living life alongside of my patients and we're sharing. I'm looking and seeing when they're going to the beach and I'm going to the zoo in the same day and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, so fun. Make sure you're wearing your sunscreen." And I'm checking in. And I think that when you're living life alongside those that are following you, it feels a little bit more of a community versus this. I think there's like an emptiness. There's almost like a void of like I'm putting myself out there but I'm not getting anything in return. And so that I think is where and I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel like that engagement. I mean, our goal with social media is to obviously stir up engagement, but it doesn't have to be where you're putting yourself out there and you're not getting anything in return. You can truly fill your cup by living in community with those online, and it's almost like a gateway of. And I think that the pandemic really shifted this too, because we started living our lives on a screen and talking to everybody through a screen. And socials is almost the way to keep up with people without having to have a conversation. But
Yeah,
when we are intentional about having the conversation, even on socials, it makes it a little bit less lonely and a little bit more fun to share. It's fun for me to be like, this is what my morning routine is. What are you guys doing? And it's
yeah,
fun for me to say, this is what I'm doing with my son today, or this is the vacation that I'm going on, or I have a busy day in the office and this is what's going on there. And it just pulls all together in a very community mindset,
yeah.
I guess.
It's
What would
good.
you say?
Yeah, I think it's really just about the feeling of knowing that we're in this together. And what I love about social media is that it's an opportunity for all of us to connect and, like you said, create community. And I struggled off and on for the past several years with showing up consistently, because behind the scenes I've been doing a lot in my career and in my business. And even though I'm a social media professional, me personally showing up, that's been a challenge. And I'm finally coming out of a season where it was very hot and cold, in and out, and that dance that you go through as an entrepreneur. It's one thing whenever you first are starting out and you're a little bit smaller, and maybe you are more open to sharing things. And then as you get bigger and as you acquire more patients, more clients, you acquire more employees, um, you go through more things and you have more perspective, you start to see very quickly how much pressure there is. And it's really easy to buy the lies from the devil, where he's like, stop, don't share your message, don't show up,
Yeah.
you need
It
a little
feels like there's a lot
fear.
more on the line.
Yeah, there's a lot more judgment to be had. And I agree with what you said about it's so easy to show up for a million strangers. I feel the exact same way. Great in front of a large audience of most of the people I don't know, but when we're talking about as you grow your business, you start to, I mean, you guys know you got hundreds if not thousands of patients that are accessing all the things that you're doing. And so I say that because I empathize with the fear and the pressure. But what I also know is true is that if you have been given this opportunity to serve this amount of people, and you've been given the opportunity to lead these people, they need to hear your message. They need to see you showing up daily. They need to see what it actually looks like. They don't just need the highlight reel. They need to know what this actually looks like,
Yeah.
because social media is, for most people who are not business owners, creators, entrepreneurs, social media is a highlight reel. Because if you're not trying to market your business, that makes the most sense, right? Like, if you're just a normal person, you're not building a business, why would you show up on social media every day and show all the things going on? That's understandable. But if you're in the seat of leadership and you're looking to make an impact through the work that you do, then you really are being called forward to step into the light and share what that looks like. And that is not
Yeah.
easy. And I want to just provide some affirmation there. Like, that's not easy, but I see you doing it. I think that's why you and I connected so well, is because you do it anyways. And I'm the same way. It's like, you do it anyways. You just show up anyways, and it's not going to be
Yeah.
perfect. And you can't get frozen in this place where you're too afraid to do anything because you're afraid it's not going to be exactly how you wanted it to be. It probably never will be. That's the creative process in a nutshell. It's never going to be absolutely perfect, but the point is, you got to just show up.
You absolutely just have to do it anyways. Like it is, we're going with the Nike slogan here, like just do it. But really, you just have to show up and start one foot in front of the other, put yourself out there. And I think the biggest thing to remember when it comes to growth, whether it is in your personal life, whether it is professionally, whether it is on social media, or just as you're walking down the street, you cannot do the exact same thing over and over and over again and expect a different outcome. You have to make a change of some sort. And you cannot sit back and think the opportunity is going to come knocking on your door if you're literally just sitting there quietly. Like, can you imagine if we all just like went home and turned off our phones and sat with the lights off and we thought that like $1 million was going to come knock on our door? Like, that's not that's not how it works. You have to get
No.
out there. You have to put yourself out there. You have to better yourself so that you are prepared when that opportunity does come, but you have to go and find the opportunity and put yourself out there. You can't just crawl up into a hole. And I think that this is something we've talked about a lot and we push each other really hard because we both fall into this. But it is it's very difficult to not just want to crawl into a hole and disappear and be like, okay, let me just do my work behind my computer here. And it's going to be a whole lot easier if nobody has opinions on what I'm doing or can see what's going on. And I'm just going to like make my living and then go to bed at night. But
Yeah.
that is not, when you have an entrepreneurial spirit, that is
Mm-hmm.
not enough for you. And
Yep.
there's definitely this fine line when it comes to your purpose on earth, where you can't constantly be chasing the next best thing, but you can't stop moving towards your purpose because you're fearful or you're lazy. You
Yeah.
got to get over the laziness. Like, you can't just sit and let the laziness take over and think, well, I have to be content with where I'm at. It has nothing to do, you can be content and still be working towards bettering yourself. You can be content with what you have and grateful for what you have and still be pushing yourself to the next level and helping the others around you go to that next level too. And I think that that's something that you are so amazing at inside of your business, but also from a personal place of just everyone around you, you're lifting up. How do you feel like that is something that you intentionally do? Or do you feel like because you're focused on yourself, that just pours out to others around you?
Naturally, how I'm wired, I find a lot of joy and passion out of identifying people's gifts and hearing more about their visions and the things that they want. And I'm a pusher, I'm a challenger. And I definitely received both sides, both responses to that. There's a negative side to that because a lot of people don't like that about me. And this is one thing about leadership that you have to get really comfortable with, and it's not easy. But at the end of the day, I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to make you better. And my job is to empower you and to challenge you at the same time to continue to evolve in the way that you're thinking, in the way that you're operating, in the way that you're leading yourself, and the things that you're delivering. And that's just something that I believe it was instilled in me from my mom growing up, but I can't help it. I see things so clearly in such a way that most people can't, and I can't not say something about it. And I think that's a lot of my friends like you, even working with your mom, like other entrepreneurs, we all have a very similar makeup in our minds. And if you know much about the Enneagram, I personally hate it, so I don't want to talk much about it. But I'm an Enneagram 8, which apparently is the challenger. It's one likes, but it's because I'm going to say that's you can do better, and I know you can, and I'm going to push you, and you're going to get to the goal. And then some people enjoy it, some people hate it, but it is what it is.
We have never talked about the Enneagram before, but I think that that's so funny because I think that all entrepreneurs are either an 8 or a 3. I'm a 3.
Yes.
It's like one or the other. But I think that at the exact same time, there's some sort of parallel. Like, I am a 3-wing 2 or 2-wing 3 because I have that like part of serving and helping others, and almost like I have no self validation without it like serving somebody else. Like, I get my value out of somebody else benefiting from it. Like, suddenly I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, you see, I helped you. So suddenly I'm worthy because you saw that I helped you. It's not even like a I don't know, like I want the acknowledgement as much as it's just like, unless I'm helping people, I'm worthless type side of
That
things.
I think that's very relatable. I think a lot of
Yeah.
healthcare providers are wired that way. That's why you're so
Mhm.
gifted at what you do. You're a huge empath, and you can hear what people are saying and process it and give them real solutions. Like that's a real gift that people, not everyone
Yeah.
has.
You know what? I think that going back to branding, I think that that is a very important personal reflection that you have to do of figuring out. It's almost like you're putting yourself in a niche in a way. You're figuring out what makes you tick and what makes you different, or what can you speak on that maybe the person down the street can't to the same level as you. And remembering that you are the only you that's out there. But what sparks your fire and then leaning into that? For me, I because I have rosacea, it is very easy for me to lean into rosacea, inflammatory conditions of some sort, internal health for that external beauty. That comes so naturally, but I had to do a lot of self-reflection of, okay, I'm not the person that can get on and necessarily talk about melasma per se, but Katie can because she's talking from a very personal perspective, and we can lean into those, and it's okay for us to have our own lane in that way. And that almost cuts your personal brand apart by you figuring out what's authentic, not just what you like to see, I guess is more of what I'm saying. Of like, you can scroll the internet and see, like, oh my gosh, one of my friends, her name is Alex. She's the Aesthetics Anonymous. We actually have a podcast episode together. So you'll have to go back. Alex Lang, she's
Yes.
fabulous. But her whole thing is one, she talks about, she works for Color Science. So she talks about color science, the science behind it, the science behind protecting yourself from the sun, but also getting out there and enjoying the sun. She is a golfer, so she'll post her and her husband out golfing. She loves coffee and she loves flowers. And she always talks about she's going to have a coffee shop and a flower shop that is all combined together. And I love seeing how aesthetically pleasing her page is, and her stories match her page, which matches her in person. And it's all just so perfectly blended and authentic to her. If I went and started posting about coffee or flowers on the daily, people would be like, okay, you're trying too hard. What is happening? This does not match. But if I get on there and I'm like, listen, I'm wearing a baseball cap and it is Cute Hat Friday, and I love wearing baseball hats, and I want to be at the beach, and I love hanging out with my family. And look, my cheeks are bright red. This is what I'm doing for them. That
Yeah.
matches me. That is authentic. And that then leans into people identify you with it. And I think for me too, me talking about like my past with Disney too, I've had so many people be like, oh my gosh, you're like the aesthetics Disney princess. That was authentic to me to lean
Yeah.
into. If I tried to be this like emo cowgirl on the internet, people would be like, Delaney, what the heck are you doing? Put your pink back on. Like it just would not work. So
Yeah. It is, and that's the thing is you've got the pieces of you that make you you. I mean, obviously you're an esthetician, you're a business owner, so I love your skincare routines, your education on color science, which products work, you sharing vulnerably your skin concerns. I love that kind of content from providers specifically because it makes them more relatable, which makes it easier for the audience to trust the advice that you're going to give to your patients, but also
yeah.
just it brings it all together. But then you've got the personal aspect, which I think is really important. And I think a lot of people struggle with, well, how do I show pieces of my life that I haven't shown, or like what's enough, but what's not too much. I think that's always like a good conversation to dance around. But I always say, whatever is most genuine and authentic to you, and whatever things that you're obsessed about and that you really truly love, to a certain degree, share it. I mean,
Yeah.
you want to bring people in who are like-minded, and you want to show who you are. And the downside of social media is I see a lot of women especially get so stuck in looking at what everyone else is doing,
Hmm.
especially if you're not in marketing and you don't understand, fully just a lot of the things that people are doing online are intentional and they are planned, and we are losing the truth in that what works the best is whenever we show up as who we actually are, and just making that effort daily to share little pieces of our lives can really help improve our social media presence, the connection that we have with our audience, our engagement, our growth. And one thing I did want to share on this episode was, tangibly, how do you make time for that? How do you do that? I want to hear your process, if there's anything that you've seen works for you over the years, because I know you've been building your social media for a while. one thing that I started doing the past couple of years for my personal brand, and it's also something we do for our clients, is um, when I'm going about my day, I will take photos and videos of like those little moments that I want to share with my audience, because my audience, I'm very clear, is other entrepreneurs, business owners who are growing their team, growing their client base, maybe people who are wanting to start their business. That's it. I'm not worried about the friends that follow me from high school, the friends that follow me from college. I'm not necessarily speaking to them. I'm speaking to the people that really want to step into this. And so I take photos and like little clips of like my morning routine of waking up at 5 and doing my Bible study and then doing my workout. And it's not because I'm trying to brag to people who, like, for example, friends from college.
Yeah.
Honestly, that content's not for them. My content is for people who are trying to create a lifestyle that allows them to step into all that they've been called to be. And so for me, I like to show what's worked for me. And for me, routines are extremely important. Some of the supplements, workouts, so on and so forth. I believe in pouring into yourself first before you go out. You're going to spend your entire day from 8 a.m., if not earlier, if you're a parent. That starts but it's all day long. And I strongly believe in the power of pouring into yourself before you go and pour into others. So like that's a small micro example of like I'll create all of that content on my camera roll, but I won't post it until I sit down at my desk at 8. I'm not trying to multitask throughout my entire morning, because then I would be late to what I'm supposed to be doing and I would feel chaotic. But you can easily like take little snapshots of what that looks like. And that's just one thing that's really helped me keep up with the whole personal branding side of things, because I understand when you own a business, it's a lot to juggle all at once.
It is. And it can be very overwhelming when, for example, my mornings start either by my alarm clock or by my alarm clock that is my son. And sometimes that can be like 15 minutes before my actual alarm clock. And so I'm feeding him, then I'm putting him back down for a little bit. I'm getting ready. I'm trying to record stuff or take pictures of what I'm doing while I'm getting ready. If I tried to post that at the same time, I am wasting precious minutes of my morning of trying to make sure that it flows the most relaxing, calm, ready for the day. You're prepping for your entire day. So if you're starting your day playing catch up, it's just you're setting yourself up for failure. So for me, I like to make sure that I have the diaper bag packed the night before and my work bag packed the night before. I kind of think through, I pull up my work schedule, I see what my patient schedule is like. I try to kind of mentally time block, like, okay, this is where certain things fit in a loose manner, because nothing ever works out the way that you think it's going to work out throughout the day. But I get all that in my mind the night before. So I know what outfit I want to wear based on what my day looks like. Do I need to be completely ready to be in a treatment room all day long? I'm going to do my hair and my SPF makeup and wear the shoes that are ready for me to be standing behind my treatment bed all day long. Am I going to be able to multitask and take content at the same time as I've got some patients? I dress accordingly to that and make sure that that's all ready. I think through that already. So when I wake up in the morning, I can just start rolling through my day. And that makes taking the content as I'm getting ready or as I'm like in my car ready to walk in for the day, it makes that a lot more attainable because I've already taken a lot of the thought process out of the prep. I've done that the night before and I'm just able to go through the motions. That also allows for me to be present with my son and make sure that I'm setting his day up in a good way, because that is one of the, I think, the toughest things that I've come into in the last couple of months becoming a new mom is you're no longer just responsible for you and your day, but you have to set up your child's day for success or your family member's day for success. And your actions are going to have a play on that. And you don't want your social media, your content to take away from that. You don't want your entire life to become a content reel. You want the content to just flow into what you're already doing and feel natural so that it's coming across authentically. I think we can all pinpoint somebody on Instagram that you know that they stopped what they were doing to record a piece of content versus it just flowing into their day. And what do we all do? We tap right past that story. Like we don't like seeing it. We scroll right past it on the feed. It doesn't have the wow factor that stops your scroll or stops your tap. Like you're not engaged in it because you know it's just a marketing ploy. And so that's what I do. I kind of time batch in that way. And I like to record in the morning and then I will post throughout the day, or I try to think through like, okay, this is this is kind of a concept that I have that fits into my day already, versus I think that there's a time and a place for batching your content way ahead of time. I think that batching your content ahead of time works really well for a business. It does not work for a personal brand because your day to day life shifts literally day to day. So you can't pinpoint, like, well, on July 30th, this is exactly what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to post at 2 p.m. and this is going to be the exact thing that I'm doing on July 30th, because it's going to change. Like, it's going to shift. So I think that you have to almost separate out your business brand from your personal brand. Speaking
Yeah.
from a social media mogul's point of view, and somebody that has a business brand and a personal brand and helps others with their business brand and their personal brand, how do you think that it is best to approach showing up authentically in both of those places and planning the content for both of those separately? Because they are two totally different worlds and you can't treat them the exact same if you want success.
So, a personal brand is all about the individual behind that brand. And when I say individual, personal core values. What are the things that you as a human value in your day to day life? It's a combination of your business values, your values with the relationships that you have, your values around yourself, your health and wellness, your spirituality, your faith. It also has to do with the mission that you have personally, because when you own a business, what I found is most entrepreneurs actually have multiple businesses. So you are representing the multiple businesses that you're running. So with your case, Delaney, you have your personal brand, you have your med spa, you have your e-commerce side of things, you have your brand collaborations with different partners in the aesthetics industry. Like that technically is 4 different lanes right there. And so I think it's getting clear A, on your values, and then B, on your audience. That's something that really helps break through those barriers of being afraid to show up. Really get clear on who it is that you're speaking to and start speaking to that person. Just because you have a personal following of people who have known you for X amount of time, like we talked about, high school, college, other jobs you've worked, that's all fine. Family, friends, that's great, but we need to really think about who are you speaking to and why are you showing up? Like what is that profile? What are their challenges? What's breaking their heart? What challenges are they overcoming right now that you've already overcome? How are you speaking to them? And when you can get a little bit more clear on that, then your content becomes more impactful because you're being a lot more specific to those problems and you're not, I call it gatekeeping, but you're really filtering. You don't have clarity on who you're speaking to. You kind of filter your message a little bit because you're worried that, you've got these 10 different verticals of people, these 10 different audiences. It starts to feel like the peanut gallery. And you're like, well, what am I, whatever I say, it's not gonna land. So you have to get clear on who it is you're speaking to as well with your personal brand. So with that regard, and the last thing I'll say with personal brand is you're right, the live, like in the moment, day in the life, that type of content lands really well. It's very creative, it's very authentic, it's very vulnerable, and you have to get to a place where you're comfortable with sharing things. You don't have to share everything. Like you can definitely, we'll be tasteful in what we choose to share, but if you really want to connect with people, you're going to have to share something. You're going to have to share a piece of your story that is painful, that shows that you've been able to overcome that. And it could also be something that you might still be working towards overcoming. I think that's what's really important is with social media now, because we have so much access to everyone and everything. I also know people sometimes get caught up in well, I haven't fully arrived there yet, but I've accomplished XYZ. What about the person who's here? You're here. You guys both struggle with the same things, but you've been able to make progress and they're still here. What if you showing up and sharing how you got to where you're at now, even though you want to be here, maybe you haven't fully overcome the thing that you're up against.
Yeah.
You sharing how you got there is going to be impactful. So I think that's so important to remember, and not getting stuck in again, like the progress over perfection is so important. So on the personal brand, that's that's just a little nugget there. On the business side of things, similar but different. I mean, your business is going to have a vision statement, a mission statement. You're going to have business core values, and you're going to have a specific type of audience that you're wanting to market to, what type of patients that you want to have coming in the door. But this is where you're going to really focus on what kind of culture you guys have inside of your practice, what services you offer, and what makes you unique compared to other practices. It's really highlighting that experience in your business. It's pulling the curtain behind the scenes of what it looks like to be a patient and what that looks and feels like, and having those patient testimonials, those before and afters. It's a little bit of a different vibe in the sense of we're showing the whole family. It's like we're showing there's a lot of different people involved. It's not just one person. So I hope that gives a little bit of separation, context and separation, if you will.
It absolutely does. And putting yourself in the consumer's shoes. One of the things that my grandma always said to my mom when my mom and Katie and Dr. Mullenbo were first starting the urgent cares. Oh my gosh, now 20 years ago. Sorry, guys, I'm aging you. But what she would say is, Kim, you need to go and sit in the treatment room and you need to look at the door like you are the patient. And she would point and be like, do you see that cobweb up there in the corner? Do you see how that door handle is just slightly off center? You need to fix that. And she would go through, and it wasn't in a nitpicking way. It was more in the put yourself in the patient's shoes type of way. So you think of that from your patient experience inside of the building. That makes sense, right? We all think, what does our patient flow look like? What does our building look like? Think of your social media the exact same way. People these days will not just walk into a business without doing a full-blown Instagram dive or YouTube or Facebook or like whatever socials that they're on. They're going to do a deep dive because they want to feel comfortable walking in the door like they already know you. And that is something that I would say we actually pride ourselves on in our practice, is the amount of times that we have brand new patients walk in the door and they say, oh my gosh, I feel like I already know you. And then they just pick up the conversation. One, it's taking a lot of the consultation time out of the process because we are already doing the legwork. We're already setting the grounds. We don't have to establish our expertise or why we are passionate about the things that we're passionate about. They've already seen all of that. We're picking up the conversation when they walk in the door, but they're also way more comfortable to open our front door. They know that when they walk in the front door, what face they are going to see standing there and what the process is going to look like. They know, okay, I might see 3 different people while I'm here because they have skin experts, they have a nurse practitioner, they have doctors, they also have a patient experience coordinator. They have Kim, who randomly will pop in, but she's probably with Easton in the back right now. They know all of that ahead of time. So they're bought into our entire process and they're comfortable the second that they walk in the door. When they pull in our parking lot, they know, okay, I'm in the right place because this is what it looks like. And that truly is what you are showcasing on your business page, is you're setting that comfort and you're almost doing like a screening of people before they get there. You're setting up that consultation so that you can jump right into the good stuff and you're able to address what they're coming to you for. And they're typically coming to you because they're self-conscious about something, or they want to pamper themselves, or you just never know. There's so many different reasons why somebody walks through your door, right? But you're getting them to where you can get right to that nitty-gritty, to where you're able to help the person. You're not wasting an hour of time just getting to know them to figure out what's going on. You're able to jump right to the point of the visit in a way that's not rushing them. I feel like that's an important thing to mention, is like, you're not doing it on social media so that your consultation and treatment can all be in 15 minutes flat and you're not actually getting to know the person. But it might be 30 minutes instead of an hour, where you're able to serve more people throughout your day. You're able to streamline to where your person doesn't feel like you're hitting them with a whole bunch of fluff, where it's like they're going through the motions of going to a brand new doctor and it's, hello, how are you? Tell me your medical history. Okay. And what are your goals? Like you're fast tracking that, where it's like, no, I know this person and they're going to help me. And that's the goal of your business social media, is to set that groundwork.
It is. And you can't fake authenticity. And I hate to have to even say that out loud, but that's why it's just so important, to show up and just be so clear on who you are. And I think I'm a big believer in you just go out and you do it, but also just get so clear on your values and who you are as a practice, what your culture is, what you guys really want to cultivate inside your business. Because if you show up on camera and you're uncomfortable, or you're faking it, or you're not being honest, or you're not really giving it everything that you have, or you're not showing passion or intention, or really just giving people like fully like everything that you know and everything that you want to be, it's not going to land. And so
Yeah.
this is how people shop. This is 2025. Social media is the new search engine. And so you having that presence is so important. Like you just said, it's a place where you're going to be able to warm up those leads before they walk in the door. So by the time they get there, it's not a discussion of why you should purchase services and procedures at Beyond Skin Aesthetics. It's a conversation of, well, what can we do for you? Because we're going to do a custom analysis of all the things that you're currently concerned about, and we're going to help you.
Yeah.
It's just a different conversation.
Yeah. And not looking at the bright side here, this is definitely not a positive, but looking at human nature, just thinking of the psychology of it all. When somebody is scrolling your social media, or when they are trying to make a decision on where they're going to go, they're looking at it from a where's the crack place. They're trying to find the break. So if you are not showing up authentically, they're going to find the crack. It's going to crash and burn. Your longevity has a time span on it. You literally just set the timer on how long you're going to last, because the internet is going to find the crack. The
Yeah.
peanut gallery will show up. The haters will show up. They're going to find it.
Yeah.
And you don't want it. If they don't like you for you, that is a completely different story than them not liking you because you are not showing up as you. So
Yeah.
just show up as yourself and own it. Like, just
Yeah.
own it. Cut out that, turn the timer off. You're adding longevity onto yourself, your personal brand, your business. You're gaining trust in that way. But if you're trying to curate this perfect life, I promise you, the internet is going to figure out that it is fake. So
Yeah.
just don't.
They will. And people don't connect with that, right? Like they
Hmm.
don't connect with people who are putting on this facade of a life that's not real. People
Yeah.
are going to ask more questions whenever you're only showing up perfectly. And this is just a very interesting conversation because I feel like not enough people talk about this, but social media, again, it's showing 5% of the whole picture, right? And
Yeah.
one thing that I love about our friendship and the things that I see you doing on social, and I try to do the same, is that you share things that are going on, and it's you can show the things that you care about, the things that you value, and show your humanness. And to me, that's the purpose of social media, is we're there to feel like we're connected to other people. We
Hmm.
are living in a generation right now that is more lonely than we've ever been, but we're more connected than we've ever been. And I think that's a little bit of an interesting observation that's going on. But
Yeah.
people that show up and really tell their story and show the process that is involved in getting to where you're going, the good, the bad, the ugly, that really does influence your success. And I've
Hmm.
seen plenty of people that have this perfect image online, and then all of a sudden it comes crashing down. It will catch up to you if you try to tell a story that's not real. And I know you've seen some of that happen too. So I say
Hmm.
a lot to say, like, the reality is it's not easy to show up. It takes time, it takes intentionality. But one of my mentors that I'm working with this year, Emily Ford, always says it's selfish for you to not show up. And that really rang a bell for me because I'm the first person to say, if I'm not having a good day, or if I'm dealing with these 10, 15, 20 issues, if I'm overwhelmed and I can't do it today. But uh, there's there just comes it comes to a point where it's like, am I here for myself, or am I here for the people who are watching all of this unfold? Am I
Yeah.
here to speak life into the person, the woman who has just started her business and has, let's say, a spouse that's telling her that she's too much and that she can't achieve the things that she wants to achieve, and she's not smart enough, she's not good enough, and she's got this person in her life that's holding her back, and then she's following me,
Hmm.
and I have a choice of whether or not I show actually what this looks like. Like, it's that, like, that narrowed in of if you have to really think about,
Yeah.
why am I doing this, and if I'm gatekeeping this, am I really really fully stepping into the purpose that God has placed on my life.
Right. I have a soapbox. Are you ready for it?
Let's hear
Okay. And we're going multiple directions here. So, first, when it comes down to how you're showing up and are you showing up for yourself or are you showing up for the other person? That goes back to the giver's heart. What is your heart in it? Are you truly in it for the other person? And I think that whether that is in the treatment room or online, we need to be doing that self reflection of, am I showing up to add value to somebody's life, and what value am I adding in this way by sharing? And sometimes it can be freaking terrifying to show up and put yourself out there. I cannot tell you how many times through my divorce or through early motherhood I have literally, and I tell Mary this all the time, I literally will voice memo her and be like, I want to shrivel up and die today. I want to literally shrivel up in a hole and never let myself or my son out of this. I just want to protect us. But that is not in alignment to God's purpose for my life, for my son's life, for our business. There is zero alignment with that. That is straight fear and anxiety that is coming out of that.
yeah.
And by showing up, sometimes you're doing the hard thing. You're showing up in the hard way because you're helping the person on the other side of the screen to work through what they're going through in life. And every time I share my story, I get just a flood in my inbox of one support, which I always love. Thank you guys so much for being so kind through this entire season of life, but also of people that are walking through very similar things that feel so isolated and alone, because exactly what you said, we have never been so connected to others, but also been so lonely. And by sharing, okay, I'm going through this too, in a semi curated way, you don't want to completely dump to where it's just like trauma dumping on the person on the other side, but really like doing that self reflection and showing, like, okay, I'm walking through this too. These are things that I'm doing today. Do you want to do them with me? Showing up in that way, that's tangible. That's something that the other person can take away from it. And
Yeah.
you being vulnerable and showing what you're going through allows them to be at an even playing field with you. And that is truly what makes that connection. It helps with the loneliness on the other side. It helps you with your loneliness. It helps the other person with their loneliness. It just brings that community aspect all together. And it is so important. But again, because I'm on my soapbox for this today, when you are stepping into that alignment and you are putting yourself out there so vulnerably, it is going to hurt in a way that you may never have felt before, and be freeing in a way you have never felt before at the exact same time. Why is that? Because you are stepping into your purpose. The
Yeah.
evil in this world does not want you to share what is going on. They do not like the evil. I don't
Mhm.
like to say the name, but
Yep.
not God. That person wants to break you down and keep you in a hole. That person does not, or that being does not want you to step into your purpose on this earth, because by you not stepping into your purpose, you're not following through with God's plan for your life. And to be honest, who are we to think that we can stop that? If it
Yep.
is a part of God's plan for your life, girlfriend, it's happening regardless of if you are fearful and waiting in this hole or not. You are just delaying the inevitable and making it so much harder. So, you
Yep.
know what you should do? Put your hands up and say, all right, this is what we're doing. I'm going to share it, and watch the freedom that comes from it. Because the freedom that comes from just truly putting your hands up and saying, God, I know you've got this, is unmatched, and
Mhm.
it is immediately rewarded. Okay, I want to say
Yeah.
that. You might not know that it's immediately rewarded, but you will eventually. But I promise you it is immediately rewarded, because the second that you do that, whether the person on the other side of your phone says, "Okay, I got that. I received that message," or not, they
Yeah.
did. And eventually that message is going to come back to you where you know that you shared for a reason. That story is going to come back. It might be 4 months down the road that somebody books an appointment, is in your treatment chair, and says, I saw that story,
Yeah.
and truthfully, I didn't know that I needed it, but I heard that. And the very next month, my husband left me, and I was in the same position that you were in. And I felt so alone. And I remembered back to you saying, this is what I did and it's going to be okay. And I just kept replaying that in my head. I've had that happen to me.
Yeah.
And it gives you a piece of like, okay, that was really, really, really freaking hard. And I did not want to do that. But the payout of that was helping somebody else. And I was able to release that tension. I was no longer living in that fear because I let it go. So
Yeah.
that is my soapbox today of let go and let God. We're just going to keep playing back into let go and let God because that is the only way that truly you can step into God's purpose for your life. And we have a power behind us right now that is social media to step in and get the word out of anything, just the word of goodness, the word of kindness. Sharing your faith could not be your thing, or you might be somebody that doesn't have faith at the moment. Hopefully we both are praying and eventually you do, but you might be somebody that isn't, walking with Christ at the moment, but it is on your heart to share kindness because you know the darkness that is in this world. And you know that your kindness on the other side of that screen could be the only kindness that the other person sees all day long. And you can be that person. So you have so much power through your social media if you just step into that purpose and let God take care of the rest. I'll mic drop.
Woo!
I'll mic drop that now.
I have full body chills when you're saying that, Jamie. Oh my God. You are
Oh,
such
thanks, friend.
a beautiful person inside and out. Like you are
Oh.
such a gift. And I am so grateful that you're sharing part of your story, but also that you've been showing up. I mean, truly, it's the season that you've been walking through that a lot of women have walked through that are listening to this right now. Some of them haven't walked through something like that before, but it might be coming. Just watching someone move through that with such grace and kindness, and you still are so filled with joy and kindness, and you have so much to give to others. It's the gift of the Holy Spirit. I'm just so grateful that you are still choosing to show up and give all that you have and just lean into the God-given gifts that you have for all of us, because you're leading by example, and we need more of that in this world. And that's truly full circle what the point of this episode is that yes, you might be a provider, yes, you might be a business owner, yes, you might be a leader, yes, you might have one of all of these different hats, but if you're listening today, there's a reason why you're here, and it's because you have been called to step into the light and be a light for others. And the way that you do that is through leading by example, like Delaney does, like I do, and using social media as a platform to show all the things that are possible whenever you say yes. And also, like Delaney said, we'll love you if you're a believer or not. All right. We love all people. But whenever you really lean into your faith and surrender your life to God, things do completely shift. And watching you, Delaney, move through the season that you've been very recently through the strength of God and through your also just your own just belief and your faith in him, it's just such a miracle to see how beautiful your life is and how beautiful it's continuing to evolve into. But it's not by accident, it's not by coincidence. And it's such a gift to see that, and I'm just so grateful that you've shared with us just your journey so far, and there's still so much to unpack there, but
Yeah.
look at where we're at today. Look at how beautiful everything is right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's one day at a time, right? And people want to come along on the journey. They don't want to just see you on the other side of being like, I made it through. Okay, guys, this is what I've been going through. And then mic dropping in that sense. They want to be along that ride with you.
Yeah.
And thank you. Thank you so much for your kind words with that. 1,000,000%. I agree. I feel like that rounded out the episode really well. Okay. We have some hard hitting questions that we semi covered throughout the episode, but also I just want to quickly touch on them. And then I have my question that I ask all my guests. But starting off, multiple people actually have asked, biggest challenge that they have currently is making time to record content and edit the video. What is your advice for those that want to be doing that themselves, that don't want to hire an agency? And then what's your advice for those that are looking for somebody to help them with that process?
I'm a huge believer in if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So, what I love to do is on Sundays, I look at my schedule for the week. I look at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And what you can do is pick out, are there specific patients that you want to film? Are there gaps in your schedule where you could film? And time block, like literally put an appointment on your schedule so that you can work on social media, recording, so on and so forth, and make time for editing. I have found that typically the time that it takes to record, you need to double the amount of time that you need to edit. So if you're going to record for a
Yeah.
full hour, then you need to block at least 2 hours for editing. We have a team of videographers, and typically, like for a 4 hour shoot, they're editing for anywhere from 8 to 16 hours after the fact. So it really just depends on your abilities. Some people like to film and edit right on the spot. That's fine too. But I think time blocking is super important and planning ahead, because the worst thing you can do is try and wing it in the moment. And that is whenever chaos begins to happen. You don't get everything you planned for. You don't feel as confident on camera. You know, as women, we have good days, we have bad days. Pick a day where you know you're going to be feeling good. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And you got your plan, you got
Plan
your
out your month, ladies. That's what we're saying here. Okay.
there's a lot of truth to that. I can speak from a very convicted place. Plan things out accordingly and give yourself rest when you need to be resting. Otherwise, it's going to show on camera. But it's okay to wing it like we all do too. But try to be intentional with your timing. And then if you need support, call social practice. We'll do it for you.
There you go. I will say, so I love what you said about the time blocking, and that was very tangible of block the time on your schedule. If you block an hour for recording, block 2 hours for your editing side of things. My piece of advice from somebody that is a time blocker that constantly breaks my own time blocking
Uh-huh.
is treat it like a patient. You're not going to no show a patient if a patient walks in your door and they have a scheduled appointment with you. So if
Yeah.
you have that on your schedule, treat that as a scheduled appointment time and freaking do it. Okay? We're going to do it. That is another huge takeaway from this episode is we're just going to do it anyway. So that
Yeah.
is what you're going to do with that. When it comes to help, so obviously from Beyond Skin Aesthetics side of things, we utilize social practice as a huge, huge piece of our marketing. I would say the main piece of our marketing. We utilize social practice for everything from our social media, like our feeds, to our ads, to our emails. We do a little bit of everything with them. They really help us manage everything. If you are not in a place to have somebody that is kind of like the do it all crew that social practice is, there are agencies out there that have kind of like a do it yourself kit in a way where they're supporting you with almost like templates every single month or a timeline. They're helping you plan things out, but you are also doing the legwork. They're just kind of assisting you in the way. One company that I absolutely love that we have also used, and I actually work with them a lot myself, is Smith and Crawford. And I will try to tag them in the show notes of this as well. And when all of this starts to go live, I will also tag them on Instagram so that you guys can follow them too. They have that exactly. So they don't have a do it yourself service like social practices, but they do have where you can get on. They have basically an Excel spreadsheet where it helps you organize what your month is like. You're planning to succeed, not planning to fail in this sense. And then they also have some templates that you can really take and put your personal branding on and kind of like run with it at the same time. So there's both sides. You can either completely do everything yourself. Canva is everybody's best friend, including social practices. So I promise, no matter how big or small you are, you're using Canva. So you can either completely do it yourself on Canva and with your own iPhone or however you want to record it. You can also utilize a company that has like a little leg up in a way, a little helping hand with everything. Or you can have a do it for you practice that is social practice. And there is no right answer. You just have to figure out what's going to be the best for your company and put your marketing dollars to work. So don't waste your marketing dollars on random stuff that you think that you want. Although we did just buy candles. So I'm just saying, although those are for a purpose, we thought through those. But don't put your marketing dollars in dumb places if you don't have your processes in place. Put those towards something and get the help that you need.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I totally went. I've had a lot of
Okay.
little tangents here. Next question that we have is definitely aimed more towards me. How to showcase motherhood while still protecting your child. And I would love to hear how you have helped some of your clients with this as well. For me, I have been very careful not to show Easton's face on things, I'll show little tidbits. So it might be an eye here or a mouth here or a foot or a leg or like, or an arm or something, but I'm not showing him completely. Partially that is because AI is absolutely terrifying in my point of view. And I feel like he should be able to make that decision himself. That's my point of view. That is not for every single person. I follow a lot of people where I feel like I am genuinely watching their kids grow up with them. And I absolutely love it and love buying into it. You have to make that decision yourself. I would say be careful on social media with how much you are sharing. If you are sharing your life, you can protect yourself. If you are sending your kid to school, but you are posting what school they're going to, what their class schedule is, what they look like, what they wear, like all of the things, there are creeps out there, people. So that is something to be mindful when you are sharing. Share things, but don't overshare to where I have actually on this exact topic. I have a friend who's an influencer and she commonly shares her children's life, and her children are now to the age where they're like 3, 4, 5 years old.
Mhm.
And she will randomly be approached by people that follow her on social media in a local sense. And they'll walk up and they'll just start talking to her kids about stuff. And you know what her kids do? They look at the people that walk up to them and know, oh, I just had a soccer game yesterday. And they are terrified because to them, it's like, there's this stranger. How do they know so much about my life? They don't have the conceptual understanding of, oh, it's because it's on social media. So that's something to think about as you're sharing your kids is it's going to affect them. So
Yeah.
it's going to affect you, but it's also going to affect them. In
Yeah.
my case, because I am in a very interesting situation where my husband did leave, he's not in the picture. Um, we are now divorced. I'm a single mom. I want to share about being a single mom, but I also don't want to put my child at risk because it is such a touchy situation. That could absolutely shift as time goes on. But in today's world, I am navigating the fear of sharing him but also wanting to share him because I am so open with my own life. So I think that that's something that you just have to take day by day. And your children are such a big part of your life. However, nobody is entitled to know about them. And I had another friend that told me that because I had a lot of pushback when I first had my son, because through my process, and maybe someday I will share exactly what is going on with everything. But through my process the last couple of months, it I basically went off the grid for a month and a half. And so when I came back, there were a lot of people that were like, "Oh my gosh, I thought something was wrong," or "Why haven't you shared? You need to share him. You need to post a picture." Almost in a "I deserve to see a photo of your child" type of way. And one of my friends that is a colleague in the industry straight up said, "Delaney, nobody is entitled to a picture of your child. Nobody is entitled to know what you are doing in your daily life. It is a gift that you are sharing it. You are bringing them alongside of you. Let go of the guilt and do not be forced into anything. Go on your own timing and trust your mother's gut." And that is like, as a mother, you are going to have a gut instinct. So just follow your mother's gut in that sense.
Yeah.
And that's what I say about that.
That's really good. I love your approach too, especially when you're a new mom and you've got a newborn, and it's a
Yeah.
really good perspective to have. I think, I mean, when we were growing up, we didn't talk about social media. It wasn't even a thing
Yeah.
until I was in middle school, high school, at home. We never talked
Mm.
about it. My parents never talked about it with me. It was still so new. And I think our generation becoming parents of kids who now have access to it, I think the more we talk about it, the healthier it's going to be. And I
Yeah.
really appreciate you for bringing that up. And I think, like you just said, protecting your kids is personally my first response. But I think having conversations with your spouse, your family, your community,
Hmm.
and also getting their feedback if they have opinions, I think it's always good to seek um, just advice and or just like get feedback from other people of just how they're approaching it so that you're in alignment with the things that you believe and that you value. But you're
Yeah.
right, there's a safety risk with posting your children, so I think that there's a fine balance.
And I think honestly, we're going to take this and we're going to make this a full episode, and we're going to get our mutual friend Alicia Merlot in on this because I think that this is a further conversation that we can have when it comes to
Mhm.
um, trafficking
Yep.
and all sorts of other scariness that's going on.
Yep.
So we'll make this a separate episode for sure. Okay.
Yep.
Last, I would say most common question that we need to throw in here real quick, because I know we're getting close on time, is what's up with TikTok right now? Is it banned? Is it not banned? Is that still on the table? What's the details with that?
So, as of June 30th, 2025, the latest news is that we may have buyers that want to buy out TikTok, but we're not sure. We do know that President Trump has extended the deadline for ByteDance to divest from the platform's US business. At this point, it's unclear. We know that there's a lot of things happening in the world at the moment. So, my best guess would be that there's a lot of decisions that have to be made. I'm not sure how much of a priority this is, but as of right now, it looks like it's still up for negotiation. So, we don't really have a clear answer of what to expect. But my best advice would be to make sure that you diversify your marketing efforts beyond multiple channels: Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Build up your email list, make sure that you've
Mhm.
got a good subscriber base there. Social media apps, they do control your content at the end of the day, they own it. So make sure that you've got backups to everything that you're sharing to each of the platforms. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know what's
Yeah.
going to happen, but
That's a huge one. Diversify so that if something happens, you're good to go. My Instagram got taken down for 5 hours last week, and it was the most terrifying thing ever. Um, but luckily, I have diversified channels. That is the biggest thing that you can do for your business is diversify your channels, have a way to reach your audience. If for some reason one of these social media platforms goes down on a whim, you never know if it's going to be TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. You never know. I guess YouTube's probably the safest, but
yeah.
diversify for sure. Um, Before I ask you my last question here, I want to say, oh my gosh, now I can't pull it up. If you liked everything that we talked about today on the podcast and you are more of just needing something to push you to the next level and you're a podcast person, which I'm guessing you are if you're listening to this right now, if you have not listened to Ed Milet yet, you need to. But he had an episode on June 5th that came out titled, What If You're the One Holding You Back? And I think that everybody, as we were talking, that pops up in my mind. And I think that that is a great episode. It is, I think it's like 39 minutes long. So not too bad. Definitely shorter than what we just did. So go listen to that. It will definitely give you a jump start to your goals. Okay, Mary, I ask all of my guests here on the Bright Side of Beauty podcast the same question. And you can take this any way that you want. This can be something that is physical, emotional, spiritual, however you portray it. But, Mary, what is beautiful to you?
Oh, okay. I'll be totally honest. I did not prepare for this question, but I heard you. And I've been thinking about it this entire time we've been talking, and I'm like, what is the most like articulate way that I could explain this? I think beautiful to me is how you are able to really lean into your purpose in life, but also how you're able to make others feel as a result. So, for
Mm,
example, I think the most beautiful thing is whenever I'm able to see other people, help other people see what's beautiful about themselves. And that's something that I like to do for others is I like to see the light and see the goodness and see the positives and bring that out of them. And I think that that takes a lot of intentionality and a lot of perspective and a lot of courage. And I just personally am drawn to others who are like that, but also I feel very called to be that for other people. I want people to see all that they are, all the goodness, and I want them to just feel so good and confident in that.
absolutely. I love that. So, what's beautiful to you is watching other people identify what's beautiful in others. I
Yeah.
love that. So
And in
good.
themselves. Yeah.
And in themselves. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Doing that self-reflection and realizing what you bring to the table too. I think that's really important. And a lot of us, I think, feel self-conscious doing that. We feel like that's almost like boastful to talk about, or like bragging to be like, well, this is something I'm good at or something that I bring to the table and is a benefit to others. But really leaning into that can help a lot with finding your self-worth and stepping into that plan that God has for your life. We are all good at something, and it
Yeah.
falls right in line with what that greater plan is. So we've
Yeah.
got to do that self-reflection and find that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been a pleasure. And I know you've got to run, we've got to run. And to everybody out there, you can catch Mary. I'm going to link all of your stuff. So Social Practice US is your social media, right?
That's right.
Or
Yep.
Mary Elizabeth Robb. I'm going to plug everything for you now. And I'm going to tag everything in the show notes so that people can find you. Again, thank you so much for joining us. And if you loved this conversation, Mary and I are actually going to be speaking on a panel with Jared Rohr from Aesthetic Conversion at Aesthetic Next this year in Dallas in September. So you can come and see us. We're going to be talking about social media and showing up authentically in that sense. They are two absolute powerhouses, and I lean into their mindset and hearing what they have to say when it comes to social media and SEO and everything else on a daily. So definitely follow along with them and then come and see us when we are all in Dallas in September.
Yeah.
All right, Mary, I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'm sure we will talk very shortly after this.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me on. That was so good. Bye.
Bye, everyone.